Hello, BookTube. This is Alan, back with another video today. The county and city where I live has issued a shelter-in-place ordinance, but my job has been deemed essential, so my branch manager, I work as a security officer, my branch manager has emailed me a certificate saying that I am an essential worker and that the my position is very valuable. But of course, I see a lot of people. Like last night, I was in 7-Eleven, and I saw a guy go in there, and he's hugging his girlfriend, and he's buying a pack of Corona beer, and she was just buying a soda, and another guy came in just buying potato chips. Apparently, the shelter in place is not working a lot. So here with Friday Reads, and I wanted to show you this. This is the New York Review of Books. This is their I have a subscription to their newsletter, and the first one. So you had Finan O'Toole, The Outsider. This one is Namwili Serpell, Watchmen Monsters, and Tim Wu on Watch, Predicted and Controlled. Ethan Bronner on the American Jews in Israel, Rift or Drift. And back down here you have Kuko Fusco, Imagining Cuba, and Robin McFarlane, American Landscapes. I went through one of these on one of my previous videos, showing you what the reviews and everything that was in here. So, yeah, that's the New York Review of Books. I just received this the other day. Now, what am I reading? Friday Reads. Excuse me. Well, I'm going through this Gai-Jin. This is a March Mammoth read. By James Clavell. I'm on page 919, and the book is 1,234 pages long. So I should be through with this by this weekend, and it's going pretty good. There's a lot of things going on. You have the British who's trying to negotiate with the demands from one of their people who was chopped to death, and because he didn't bow to the Japanese. And so you had the Shogun Toranaga and his people who are going to wage war against the Gai-Jin, which means foreigner. And you have another group which is going to wage war against the Shogun. And so you had the British who are trying to get, who are basically want to have a war against the Shogun. And because of what they're not bowing to the British, basically. And it's like the British Empire, Pax Britannica, and when they go into a country, you have to obey by their laws, not the laws of that country, which they invaded or went into. This little thing here is trying to find it. Dog-eared it. Not dog-eared. Can't say that on. Oh, here it is. This gentleman, the admiral, says, without natives having our ornaments, the mutiny would never have happened. Revolts everywhere would be quickly contained. Savages all over the world could be more easily and properly educated. Useful trade would be conducted in peace, and world order would flourish in the benevolence of Pax Britannica. And miserable fornicating pirates would never not have the means to fire my flagship, by God. And without the Royal Navy ruling the seas, by God, there's no Pax Britannica, no British Empire, no trade, and we'll be back in the Dark Ages. So the next Next I'm reading for March Mystery Madness is the Murder British Style. This is the anthology of short stories. And I have read a couple in here. You can see some of the contents. I read Four Suspects by Agatha Christie, Silver Blaze by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, The Adventures of the Suffering Ruler by H.R.F. Keaton, and Rats by Dorothy J. Cannell. So I'm enjoying them so far. They're very, very good. And there's Arthur Morrison, G.K. Chesterton, Joan Aiken, Lorna Dole, and Ruth Reynolds, Margaret York. I'm enjoying these short stories. It's a good way to get involved in mysteries. If you don't like mysteries, you can read the short stories, just like science fiction. You can read some of the short stories and it'd be good. So that's Murder British Style. The next one I'm reading is my 1920s book. I went through my calendar. This is 1920s for March, and with all the talk of the crash, it's just going to be like another crash of stock market crash of 1929, and the Spanish flu of 1918. So this kind of fits real rather well. This was the second book I picked after I finished Virginia Woolf's book. This is Storm is Still by Ernst Junger, and I'm really enjoying this one. This is on my page 115, and there's 176 pages to go, and this is basically his diary of when he was in World War I. He's already went through the Somme, the Battle of the Somme, which was a British offensive during World War I to try to fight back the Germans, but apparently it didn't work, and it was ended in a stalemate and ended up with over several million dead and wounded. And he went to officer training school, became an officer, and then he met this 17-year-old French girl who invited him into her farmhouse, and then he goes into this other French house, and he pays for breakfast, and they feed him a lot of eggs. He gets shot in the calf, right calf, and it went through the calf and raised his left calf. And let me see if I can find some quotes here, because these are the way he writes is very, very good, and it's very understandable. When he was in the hospital wing, he because of the being shot in the calf, one of his sergeant laying next to him in the bed had both legs shot from him, and he was going to die, and he asked for a Bible. And he was talking about, and this entire book is basically about, if you don't like squeamish about bodies being shot, or there's one right here. The candles flickered in red, and Fapper's L and his two men handed me pocketbooks and silver objects that seemed to engaged in some dark and secret work. The fine yellow plaster dust fell on the faces of the dead and gave them the fixed look of wax figures. And we threw coverings over them and hurried out of the cellar after taking up the wounded man in the ground sheet with historical advice and set his teeth. We carried him through a whirl of shrapnel fire to the dressing station dugout. And he talks about, before that sentence, he talks about the things going on, the shrapnel and the bullets and the grenades. And he said, after his narration, I lit a cigar and went to the smoke-filled cellar. In the middle of it, there was a heap of wreckage, bedsteads, straw mattresses, various pieces of furniture, all in fragments and piled nearly up to the roof. After we had put a few candles on the ledges of the wall, we set to work, catching hold of the limb that stuck out of the wreckage. We pulled out the dead bodies. One had the head struck off, and the neck of the trunk was like a great sponge of blood. From the arm stumps of another, the broken bones protracted. The uniform was saturated by a large wound in the chest. The entrails of a third poured out from the wound in the belly. As we pulled out the last, a splintered board caught in a ghastly wound with a hideous noise. The orderly made a comment of this and was proved by my batman with his words, best hold your tongue, in such manners, talking nonsense, serves no purpose. So if you have things like that, so if you're squeamish about this, you shouldn't read this book because it's very, very graphic about everything. There's one part where he comes upon this man whose face was blown off and who's has a stump of an arm and just a thumb showing. This one sergeant was telling him that he couldn't sleep because rats were gnawing. I don't know if they were gnawing on him, but on or somebody else who was injured. It doesn't say. So you have stenches and trenches, and you have dugouts, and it's very, very graphic, detailed. And one of the things he says in the book, in his diary, let's see if I can find it here. This, the retreat from the Psalm. One of the things he says is, and he quotes Nietzsche in another section, the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche. Oh, here it is, right here. What does Nietzsche say of fighting man? You must have as enemies only those whom you hate, but not those whom you despise. You must be proud of your enemy, and then the enemy's successes is your successes also. And there's a part right here, excuse me, there's a part right here on April 30th I handed over to my successor of the 25th Regiment, by whom we were relieved. We made our way to Fleurs, the rendezvous of the 1st Battalion, leaving the mud-shelled Limekins. Jay's bone temps on our left. We went quickly on through the afternoon sunshine along the path to Beaumont. Our eyes rejoiced again in the beauty of the earth. We drew in the intoxicating breath of spring, thankful to have escaped the intolerable crowded confinement of the dugout. With the thunder of the guns in our rear, my sympathies were with the poet. Surely the day that God has given has better uses than to kill. Have a good weekend.